Guilty Gear is one of those franchises that have characters that always pop on a screen no matter where you look. Whether you're a diehard fan or just a casual watcher, it's hard not to get pulled in by the creativity that the characters bring in the cast. However, if you take a closer look into Guilty Gear, you'll find that it has a ton of weird characters, but that's what really makes Guilty Gear super unique. Each character I'm going to be talking about today have rich backstories, distinct personalities, and unique fighting styles that make them so interesting to watch. In this video, we're going to deep dive into the most outlandish Guilty Gear characters in my opinion, and uncover why their apparent strangeness is actually a stroke of creative genius. If you enjoy this type of content, please consider subscribing and leaving a like on the video. Also, join the community Discord, link in description. Starting off with the main man, Faust. Faust is one of the wackiest, most random fighting game characters of all time. From literally hitting you with his shiny bald head, to pogo sticking around the battlefield, to even changing your hair into an afro depending on the character, Faust is just weird, and that doesn't even scratch the surface of what he can do in a match. A lot of Faust's gameplay and moveset is designed around using random abilities to attack you throughout a match, which in return zone your opponent out and make an unpredictable matchup for your opponent. Oddly enough, Faust himself has a really unique reason for why he is the way he is in Guilty Gear, and that all starts at his origin story as Dr. Baldhead. He was designed as a Chinese serial killer doctor who went through extreme medical training to be able to contort and stretch his body, but also had a degree of skill in magic that would allow him to summon items such as surgical beds, potions, and things of that nature. So if you ever wondered why Faust could literally eat someone and watch them come out of a black hole in the middle of the screen after being in his stomach, yeah, now you know why Faust is weird. Faust hasn't really changed much from his original inception either. He carries a ton of legacy moves from the original Guilty Gear to Guilty Gear Strive, which is the most current game, and really stays true to himself. But from a gameplay perspective, Faust is just really fun and entertaining to watch, and mostly it's because of that randomness factor that I feel Faust is really creative. And the second character I want to talk about is Roboky. This is one of the funniest, weirdest characters I've ever researched or played for a YouTube video. I knew of this character due to a small subsection of memes surrounding him in the Guilty Gear scene, but then I started to kind of develop an understanding of why people like Roboky. From a gameplay perspective, Roboky is a character that shoots projectiles out of his arm, sends steam throughout his body to attack you, and even has a move called Don't Get Cocky, which shoots a missile directly at your opponent's crotch. Oh, and while he's in the air, he also rides a unicycle. Mind you, he also has an insta-kill, which is just mini versions of himself that crawl out at the opponent and pick them up and ultimately explode them. This character is hilarious from a moveset point of view, but his lore is even more insane. Roboky was originally created in Guilty Gear Plus R. Roboky Mark II, which is the character we see nowadays, was created based off the original Roboky. He ends up showing up in Guilty Gear XR's story mode, where he is literally recruited by Venom to destroy Bedman's bed that wakes him up, but not kill Bedman himself. Eventually this plan goes through, and we see Roboky explode and lose everything but his head, which leads to a very funny scene of Venom and Roboky just talking it out. Like it was just modeled after that one Futurama episode where you see all the presidents and famous people with their heads in a jar. Oh, and the best part about this storyline is the fact that after everything, to allow Roboky to get a new body, they decide, let's open up a bakery to earn all that money back to provide Roboky with a new body. Yeah, that's some Guilty Gear right there. I genuinely hope that Roboky has a chance to make an appearance in Strive as a DLC character, because he is just wacky, fun, and really unique and exciting, and also really cool from a gameplay perspective. And if you don't know what he does, or kind of just the surface level like I've explained already, let me give you some more insight onto what the character actually does. If you were to watch his character play out in tournaments, Roboky takes advantage of one move a ton, and it's the literal electric field that shows up underneath him. This electric field gives him unique properties and allows him to do special things, which increases electric gauge, which is the mechanic that makes or breaks his character. His electric meter system changes the strength and utility of a ton of his moveset, ranging from weak and pittable moves to high damage and very quick damage output. But Roboky needs to take care to ensure that meter doesn't hit 100%, otherwise he'll self-destruct, get knocked down, and basically lose all his momentum in a match. That's why when I show you high-level gameplay of Roboky, you notice that these players are constantly spamming this ability, mostly due to the fact that Roboky is a tight balancing act. Roboky is just such a cool cool character from a design point of view because he's not just a throwaway character in a sense. He actually has a lot of unique things that make him super interesting if you were to play him or perhaps watch him. Also, there's this behemoth of a character that frankly confused me so much when I first got into Guilty Gear, and that's Kum Haehyun, who at first glance looks really weird when you realize that there's a girl piloting a literal iron grandpa, which is like an Evangelion reference for Guilty Gear alone. But seriously, Haehyun is solely in this video because they are just so unique and weird at first glance. But to be honest, this character is actually really interesting to watch play out, and her lore is pretty cool as well. Haehyun's gameplay mostly revolves around kicking loops in her Okizeme game. Her whole objective as a character is to provide mix-up with her kicks and fireballs until you're eventually dead or you lost the plot somehow and you were not kicking like you should have been. No matter what you do, it's like a vortex that you're constantly being forced into. You have to guess which kick is going to be coming at you or ball that is going to be either being forced at you, go right by you, or be right in front of you. I don't know if that fully makes sense, but as you're watching the gameplay, I'm sure you kind of get a grasp of what I'm talking about. I feel these commentators put it in the best way possible.
Caught the backdash?
Yeah.
Okay, clap. So what's going on here? Maneuvering around the ball is such a mission with some characters.
You want to get around it, but you also don't want to be anti-aired by Kum herself.
From a lore perspective as well, Haehyun is the 5th lead of the Kum family, which are known for their amazing knowledge of ki energy. But even though she is so blessed with the ability of ki energy, her family does not allow women to hold position of power, which is obviously not cool. The internal conflict within the family leads to the creation on screen of this elderly robot who is piloted by our very own Haehyun. Guilty Gear characters are so sick to look at. And lastly, of course, we have the elephant in the room. You've seen the thumbnail. And if you don't know who this is, we are talking about Zappa. Look at this one little freaky dude. Hailing from the Australian region, this young man has a strange disease that lets spirits inhabit his body and control what he says at will. I guarantee most people, if you showed your average fighting game fan at a convention, if they knew this character by its sprite, I think there's like a 20% chance someone would get it right. And honestly, I don't think a lot of people even know who he is unless you're really a Guilty Gear fan. Zappa is obviously such an interesting character, from summoning random ghosts, little doggies, into literally summoning a godlike spirit. This weird stance character has some of the coolest set play in Guilty Gear Plus are. If you notice what Zappa is doing, he tends to cycle between the different spirits, which individually have their own win condition. But the coolest part of Zappa is the mini game inside the character, which focuses around the orbs that float around him. When Zappa reaches 8 orbs, he can summon this godly-like spirit, which dramatically makes Zappa a bigger threat and allows him to do some really crazy combos that just give you so much joy to pull off and watch as a viewer. It also is really impressive for Zappa to get all 8 orbs off in a match, partially due to the fact that Zappa can get hurt with certain summons that force him to either lose that ability or reroll to get something, which makes the character so interesting from a mental stack point of view. You have to be able to adapt to your matchup and play like every attack matters at all times, because if you get hit, like I said, you lose that summon in that moment. Also, I think I'm starting to notice a pattern. Maybe Plus R had some really peak Guilty Gear design. The reason why I love Guilty Gear, or hearing about the next character being in games like Strive, which is the current Guilty Gear out as I'm recording, is because they all just have something so unique to them. Especially these cast of characters I mentioned in this video. I'm sure there's characters out there that I didn't get to mention, like for example ABBA, which is actually just crazy. And of course, I believe ABBA should totally be on this list, but honestly, one day might make a video just for herself because she's just so weirdly interesting. I'm assuming now that you reached this point in the video, you probably like Guilty Gear, and personally, if you feel like I'm missing out on a character, please let me know in the comment section down below. I feel if Guilty Gear even decided to scrap some of these characters altogether, it would be a big problem to Guilty Gear, because I think this is a portion of what makes Guilty Gear so interesting from a game perspective in the fighting game sphere. A lot of games don't go out of their way to make these weird one-off characters, like for example Zappa. Yes, we've seen it in a lot of the early 90s games. If you look back at third strike like Street Fighter, for example. But besides that, I feel like Guilty Gear is the best example of a fighting game that goes out of the way to make really random characters like the characters I've listed already. And I feel that a lot of these characters themselves stand out amongst a bunch of the other popular characters like Faust, for example. But like I said, let me know in the comment section down below if I missed any characters or what I should talk about next. Thank you guys for watching. Please leave a like and subscribe, join the Discord, and peace!
偉大なわしのハイパー注意力の前ではクズ同然の存在。